Hi. Hi. I wanted to talk about something that I think is relevant to a lot of my subscribers and is relevant to me, and that is the passing of the Youth Ordinance Law or Bill 156 or the Anti-Otaku Law in Japan. And yeah, I think a lot of people are really freaking because they don't understand why this was done necessarily. I think a lot of people are aware that in Japan being an otaku is a bad thing, but I don't think many people understand the full ramifications of why that is, or the greater social space in which otaku exist in Japan, and why so many Japanese revile them. Why they're socially reviled, why they are a deviant subculture, in both senses of the word. Well, I want to talk about that, about why that is, about why this is an anti-otaku law and not an anti-anime law. And I'm going to put, the whole report as it was given by Anime News Network below. And, this is a specific ban on, animated pornography and not actual porn or, in anime, I guess, underages doing deviant things, especially, sexually explicit things, and the people who consume that stuff is otaku. Otaku almost, specifically and exclusively. So, why this hate of otaku? Why is this, big manga ban happening? Well, even though I think a lot of people have probably heard of this, I'm going to talk about the Miyazaki Tsutomu incident. By the way, I'm using Patrick W. Galbraith's Otaku Encyclopedia. He was a young man who in 1988 and 1989 abducted and murdered 4 little girls aged 4 to 7 years old. After killing them, he mutilated and sexually molested their corpses and ate portions of his 3rd and 4th victims. So, okay. That was a pretty horrible crime. At first it was called the Little Girl Murders. It wasn't until after they raided Miyazaki's home that he was dubbed the Otaku Murderer. And why this was done is because his room had so many pieces of media in it, mostly VHSs and Betamax tapes, over 5,000 pieces of media was in his room. Thousands of tapes. They were of bishoujo anime porn and extremely disturbing slasher films and hentai and other stuff like that. So so much it blocked out the sun of his room. And, that's kind of why I think in Welcome to the NHK, that's what Yamazaki's room looks like. You can't see the windows of his room, and it's only till he moves out that you can see, oh yeah, there were windows in that room. But all of his stuff blocked out the sun before that. So, Miyazaki. Yeah. He, being seen as a very disturbed person, and he said that it was the Rat Man that did these things, not him. And, being painted as somebody who's just extremely removed from reality, and that's what, obsessive consumption of anime did to him. It made him removed from reality, so much so that he believed that he could kill these girls. That's like what the Japanese think. You know, mental illness really isn't understood in Japan at all, so, or very well. So yeah, that's what they believe. So that's what like obsessive consumption of anime can do to you. It can make you crazy, make you violent even. So right, that's what the Japanese think. And there are other violent incidences with otaku that have happened. Only 2 years ago, some guy named Kato Tomohiro, he ran down a bunch of people in Akihabara, and he stabbed people. He injured 11 and killed 7 people, I think. And right, it was called the Akihabara incident, and he was just somebody who was supremely unhappy with his life. Like, he didn't get into good college, so he ended up in a dead-end job. He felt like, you know, because of this embarrassment that he was to his parents, you know, he didn't have a good relationship with them. So, right, you know, just, you know, no connection. He didn't have a girlfriend, you know, just he had a shitty life, so he felt like violently outbursting on a bunch of innocent people. And he got sympathy from otaku who, I guess, could understand where he was coming from. And this fed into, you know, even more of the Japanese perception that otaku, you know, will do violent things. That this is what anime does to them. It makes them, you know, supremely unhappy with their lives, so much so they'll kill. That's a pretty extremist view, and I'm not saying all Japanese have that exact thought, but it's a related thought to a lot of this anti-otaku sentiment. So yeah, that's only just part of it. I just skimmed the surface. Another part of it is, which is a much more mundane type of thought, is that otaku spend all of their disposable income on their hobbies. They spend it on anime, on manga, and, you know, remember, like, even though maybe manga might be cheaper in Japan, I don't know, DVDs are very expensive, so figurines, dating sims, body pillows, you know, anything that has the face of their favorite character on it. Like, otaku in Japan are very character oriented, of buying things with their favorite characters. That's, you know, really what they're into. So right, just they blow all their money on that stuff and build themselves a tiny shrine in their room to their hobbies. And, you know, the Japanese are very conservative with their money. They're very careful with their money. They're very frugal. And these people who are adults are acting like children. And that's where, you know, another social, why it's a social problem is because these adults aren't acting like adults in the Japanese sense of the word. You know, yeah. So that's a problem. Right, so now that you have some grounding on that, I'm going to move on and just say really quickly about why I don't think that this will have a giant impact on anime and manga, or it will have a giant impact. It won't be the end of it. Anime makes money, okay? Like, every year, millions of dollars is poured into Akihabara and Nipponbashi in Denden Town, which is in Osaka. It makes money. That's really it. That's the only, that is, I know it's like the simplest justification in the world, but you guys have to remember, you know, money talks. You know, it's a cliche because it's true. And as long as there is a viable, vibrant market for otaku goods, they'll eventually be sold again. Maybe in a different form than what they were previously, but it'll bounce back and it will come again. For more popular titles, like guys, I mean, Shonen Jump is published in how many countries? You know, it's a market that's anime has an international market. It generates billions of dollars a year. You know, that is too much business, too much money for, you know, some politician to just write it away. Money outlives politics. So, yeah. Also that, like, I'm really interested to see what comes from this. Because, like they said in the bill that, you know, people underage can't do certain things, but overage. Like, I'm wondering what will happen now. You know, maybe college will become the new high school, and certainly I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more anime set in college and see, I don't know, more adult characters doing adult things versus a bunch of children trying to play at being adults, which is what the majority of anime is, and which is why I find a lot of it pretty tiring, especially shonen series. But anyway, or straight shonen series. But right, and this frustration, this, you know, that's felt, that like that the government is stifling creativity. I think some really interesting dynamic work can come out of this struggle, that, you know, that frustration can be put in to anime. Like, it'll have to be subtler, it'll have to be more clever than it was before, but it could be better. And I think, yeah, that it'll survive, not only because it makes money, but because artistic people are very creative, witty people. And it'll outlive this. It'll keep going. This is not the end. Okay. Auf Wiedersehen.